I'm reading yesterday that a bankruptcy judge has in fact allowed the city of Detroit to drastically cut pensions. I thought I read something about down to 17% or something. So this isn't the first time I've done one of these videos about a city dealing with the pensioners, normally the unions, and tell the unions, look, let's try to come to an agreement now before we head to bankruptcy court. And how about you take a 50% haircut? And the unions say, no, doesn't sound good to us. Matter of fact, we want it all the way it is. So then what happens next is the city goes into bankruptcy proceedings, talks with the judge. They look at all the books, they look at the numbers. In this particular case, in Detroit, where you normally would expect to find that whoever's in charge of the accounting has kind of sort of cooked the books or did these weird accounting practices where they basically estimate revenue rather than look at really what the revenue is and just consider the next 5 years will look like this, so they put it down on the books and it hasn't even been the 5 years yet. And this is like normal accounting practices. But what I can figure out is with Detroit, I don't believe they did any of that. When they looked at the books, they looked exactly right. And they also said, in having looked at the books and them being right, there's no question you can't afford this debt. You can definitely go into bankruptcy, and you can change the pension funds payback rates, whatever percentages that you're going to pay back, because pensions are debt, is what the judge said. A pension is considered debt, city debt. So since it's city debt, just like every other piece of debt they have, when they go bankrupt, that's included. When they have to restructure in the bankruptcy, that can be included. And when you look at the amount of money, I think it was billions of dollars in pensions, out of like the whole $18 billion in debt that they owed that they can't even come close to paying back, a lot of that there was quite a bit in pensions. So the pensions go away. This is no different. You know, people thought, oh, I got retirement, that's all. Oh, I got a 401k, it can never, you know, it's there, it'll always be there. I got a retirement account, it's always there. Really? Oh yeah, I draw a pension. Oh yeah, what'd you used to do? Oh, I was a police officer for 20 years. Oh man, you put in a lot of time. Yeah, I put in the full amount of time. How long you been drawing off your pension? Oh, about 6 years. And then all of a sudden, city's not doing so well. You already put in your time, right? Everyone already paid their taxes way back in the day. Everything was good. Life was great. The economy was booming. And then all of a sudden, probably without notice, if you're not paying attention especially, you probably just get a letter in the mail. Hey, Mr. Bozo, this is your pension system company that handles your pension system. Your pension check. Your new rate's going to be such and such. And they're going to say, what? Well, new rate? What the hell is this about? Whoa, 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 whoa. This is like 75% less than what I'm supposed to be getting. This is absurd. So they call the number on the back. They're on hold for 5 days because everyone else that had a pension with that company, city, is also calling in. What the hell's going on? Well, there's been a bankruptcy filing by the city that employed you, 26 years ago, in your case. And a bankruptcy judge has approved a debt restructuring program as part of the bankruptcy, in which most of the city's debt's been wiped out. And by the way, a lot of that debt was your pension and everyone else's pension that can no longer be paid for. And you're going to argue and say, well, yeah, but it was already paid. I thought we already paid into the pension. I thought it was already paid for. We were just collecting interest, and that's how it was getting paid. And well, sir, that's not exactly how it works, because the city is using any and all revenue. So it kind of begs the question, do the cities do the same exact thing as the federal government. When the federal government taps your retirement, also known as not 401k, but what is it called? Brain freeze here. Social Security. And they tap it and say, well, we got to cut back. We didn't anticipate paying people for so long after they retired. They're living so much longer than they used to. But wait a minute. If this person's been working since they were, 18 years old or younger, I, for one, have been working since I was 15, by the way. To throw that out there, JSNP4 is not a leech on society. And by the way, people aren't leeches just because they need help, but I'm talking about people who don't want to get help and just want to suck off the system. But if you've been putting in since you've been working, and let's just say the average person starts at 18 years old, or 20, whatever, works till they're 60, that's 40 years. To me, that means you got 40 years worth of you putting money into there coming back at you, whatever that amount equals, because it should equal whatever you put in, not just some fee. And I believe that's how it works. You don't get exactly the same as everyone else, unless it is. I could be mistaken. And if so, that probably was what needs to change, because you should be only getting back what you put in, not what everyone else put in. But I'm not 100% sure how that works. But the government, we already know, takes some Social Security funds and uses it, robs Peter to pay Paul, and never puts the money back. Just hopes that we'll kick that can. By the time this thing comes to fruition, I'll be dead in a grave with a great retirement as a senator or as a congressman. My family will be living large. We won't have to worry about this. I'll let some other schmuck congressman or senator deal with it later. And that later's now. So they've been tapping Social Security. Do you think it's possible that cities have been tapping retirement, pensions somehow? Using that? I mean, you would think the books would show it somehow. I mean, you would. And when they go to the bankruptcy, those books should show that. Unless there's some slick way of hiding it, or they just flat out don't do it. Maybe part of the pension systems in some of the cities rely on revenue all the time in order to pay those pensions, rather than just saying, okay, you put in 20 years, for the last 20 years, the pension money's there sitting there waiting on you. That's how it should be. That way the money is always there. But as you can see, I don't think that's how it works. I think they just kind of go with the flow, and we'll always have this tax base. It'll always be X amount roughly, and it should increase in theory because the population increases, so we should always have money to pay these pensions. And they're finding out that that's not the case, because when property prices drop drastically, that means tax revenues drop drastically. People start losing their jobs, taxes period drop. What are you going to do when family starts moving in with a family? Right? The one family's already paying the taxes and their fees and everything at the house. Now they've got their brother, sister, mother, father, whoever living with them, where there's no real additional fees being collected, so to speak. And that person's house, which got lost to bankruptcy because now they moved in with their family, isn't collecting taxes either. It's sitting there rotting on the block. So you have this little trickle-down effect. Now, some houses, if a bank still, obviously owns the thing, they're responsible for the taxes. But due to that happening all over the place, property prices plummet. So even if the banks are paying the property taxes on these houses that they foreclosed on, it doesn't amount to too much because the city needs a lot more. So all of these Detroit pensioners, can you imagine? It's got to be a ton of GM workers. And I remember years ago, not many, hearing about GM, how the employees, when they came on, how much money they made, how the kind of paychecks these people got was ridiculously high. I mean, absurd. We're talking like $70, $80 an hour, plus their pension, right? So the average person who hears this is going to say, I don't give a crap if some person in Detroit that had a pension lost it. Now keep in mind, this is the city of Detroit, not necessarily GM. But I'm pretty sure the city doesn't get paid like the people at GM were. But you already saw GM got a bailout once, and the economy has not really improved. So is it going to be possible that we hear about GM again in the future needing another bailout? I believe so. And I believe that might be when the pensions of the GM employees really take a hit. So, another day in paradise. And by the way, this city, Bankruptcy, Detroit, is in fact, as of right now, the largest municipal bankruptcy on the face of the United States of America. Quite possibly the face of the earth, because we are supposedly the richest country in the world. Therefore, if one of our cities takes the cake in our own country as being the largest municipal bankruptcy ever in our country, chances are it's the biggest in the world. Is that what you hear about from a country that has been recovering economically? Things are going well. Jobs are being created. The unemployment rate has plummeted, which is great. Is that the type of news story you're supposed to ever hear in a country that is just doing great? There's no debt problems. There's no work-related problems. We got plenty of jobs for people. Recovery, recovery, recovery. I think I can let you decide. Take care.